Hey guys, it's Ashley Francis with Blue Sage Counseling and Wellness, and today I'm here to talk about the Avoidant Attachment Style. So I made a video just talking about attachment and attachment theory, so if you missed out on that, look in the comments and there should be a link to that video to get you started. So this is the video 2 in the series. Video 1 is the one about attachment in general. Today we are just going to focus on the avoidant attachment style. Let's hop right in. Some of the things that we're going to talk about are the parents of children with the attachment style of avoidant. Then we're also going to talk about how the avoidant attachment style develops in children. Then we are also going to talk about how this style how it presents in adulthood. And then finally, we will talk about some practical, tactical things on how to develop a secure attachment style if avoidant attachment style is the one that you most closely identify with. Again, watch that first video to see what the different types of attachment styles are to figure out which one is most relevant to you and or your partner. That can be helpful too. All right, so let's talk about the parents of children with an avoidant attachment style. Spoiler, I know this is going to be shocking, but the parents of the avoidant attachment style child also typically have an avoidant attachment style themselves. They likely learned it from their parents and back further. Point being that this is a cycle that typically repeats and repeats until somebody finally stands up and says, I'm not doing this anymore. This is not working. My relationships tend to be dysfunctional or they're full of problems. And I saw my parents go through it and their parents go through it. And you know what? I'm sick of it. Hopefully some of this information can be helpful with you if you are feeling like that's the kind of position that you're in. We're here to help you through it and to let you know that you're not alone and that absolutely it's possible. Absolutely, it's possible. I've done a lot of work in my own family of origin issues and there's hope, basically. Okay, so let's talk about the parents of children with an avoidant attachment. They are emotionally unavailable. They are emotionally unresponsive. They disregard or ignore the child's needs. They can be especially rejecting when the child is hurt or sick. They discourage crying and encourage premature independence. This sort of suck it up, you're going to be okay, don't be a sissy, boys don't cry. Sounds familiar. They often developed this same attachment style as their parents, and the cycle also continues and repeats. So let's talk about how more specifically it develops in the child. Acknowledging and displaying distress in front of a rejecting attachment figure almost always results in the rejection or punishment of that child. That's what is characterized, the avoidant attachment style. That's what is at the heart of all of this. When the caregiver is not acknowledging the distress in the child and they are rejecting, it is always going to reinforce this message that your emotions do not matter, you are less than, you may be insignificant. It just creates this message that they've got to act a certain way in order to be accepted by their parents. We'll talk a little bit more about that. So the child learns early in life to suppress the natural desire to seek out a parent or a caregiver when they're frightened, distressed, or in pain. When they're not crying or outwardly expressing feelings, they can gain the approval of the rejecting caregiver by remaining physically close to them. So this is one of the biggest hallmarks, is that they may have to emotionally suppress their feelings, but they will do this in an effort to remain physically close to the caregiver, because being physically close to them as a child who is vulnerable is better than not having them near them at all. So a lot of people wonder, well, why would they stay with this caregiver? They're awful to them. Well, a child, as I said, is vulnerable. They don't even feel like they have any other choice. They may not even know that they have another choice. In some cases, they may not have another choice. So they sort of rationalize in their brain, well, it's better to be physically close to them than emotionally. So I better wrap it up. I better keep it under wraps so that the parent or caregiver will be accepting to me, at least on a physical level. They disconnect from their bodies regularly, and they rely heavily on self-soothing and self-nurturing behaviors. So in more extreme cases, or I would say moderate to extreme cases, you'll see young children who engage in masturbation, head banging, which kind of sounds counterintuitive, but it's a way of being able to stimulate themselves and to be able to have a repetitive motion to quell some of that anxiety. Some less extreme examples would be like hair twirling, sucking their thumbs, picking their nails, things like that. Anything that is self-soothing to the body, because like I said, they are the types that want to come right out of that body. And they develop a pseudo-independent orientation to life. They maintain the illusion that they can take complete care of themselves, and this can carry over into adulthood. They have little desire to seek out others for help or support because they learned early on that those in positions of authority are not reliable and don't serve that purpose. So now let's talk about some characteristics in adulthood. Again, they're independent, they're self-directed, and often uncomfortable with intimacy. They tend to be commitment phobes and very good at rationalizing their way out of an intimate situation. They complain of feeling crowded or suffocated when people try to get close to them. They perceive their partners as wanting too much or being clingy when the partner expresses a desire to be more close. They always have an exit strategy. They construct a lifestyle to avoid commitment. Men are more likely than women to be avoidant types. When faced with separation or loss, they are able to focus on other issues and goals or withdraw and deal with it on their own. They use suppression to manage emotions and deny their vulnerability. They disregard the feelings and interests of other people. Their response to conflict is to become distant and aloof. They have an overly positive view of themselves and a negative, cynical view of others. And this is out of compensation for low self-esteem and some self-hatred. So some examples of this would be a woman that works 80 hours a week and tells the man that she's dating that she barely has enough time for one date a week, and he'd be lucky to even get that. Another example would be a guy who dates a lot of women over a long time and is always telling them that he just doesn't want to get serious. Okay, so now let's talk about some of the things that you can do in order to make this situation better. The first is to make sense of your story. One of the things that experts recommend is to have a coherent coherent narrative where you write out your story, write out your family story of how your parents took care of you and how securely attached or insecurely attached you felt to them. And continue to write up into your current life and start to make some connections between what you're experiencing now and how it's connected to things in the past. Sometimes just getting that going can go really far and can be very helpful. The next is to be in a relationship with someone that has a secure attachment style. So this is the type of person that has really good boundaries and they don't have a problem enforcing them with you, and they will hold the line until you are in a more stable place. And they're actually teaching you in real time what a healthy relationship looks like. These relationships tend to be pretty bumpy, at least in the beginning, but if the person is willing to learn and both partners are very patient, this can work out very well. The next is to go to therapy. This is a safe haven for you to explore all of those things from your family of origin, as well as your relationships with your current partners. That's the one of the best places to get new perspective on yourself and your relationships. The next is positive affirmations. These are just simple positive statements that you can tell yourself on a daily basis to reinforce a new narrative in your brain that you are worthy, you are lovable, you are good enough, and so forth and so forth. A therapist can be very helpful in helping you determine what are some good affirmations for you. The next is to parent yourself. Essentially, what this means is to give yourself the things that your parents never gave to you. So this can come in the form of giving yourself a self-hug, which sounds kind of cheesy and kind of corny, but do it. It actually helps. It helps to regulate the nervous system and do all the things that you never got. If you need to do it in private, I won't tell. And then to also just acknowledge the positive. Sometimes we didn't get that affirmation and approval from our caregivers. So now we have to give it to ourselves. And it's amazing to find how many people have such a hard time with being able to give themselves some positive feedback because they never learned it. They didn't know what that looked like. The next is to channel your inner child. This one also sounds a little silly, but it also can be very effective. Do things that children do. Blow bubbles, go on bike rides, go to the park, watch children. See what you can do to really connect with your inner child. And typically that comes through a lot of play. Some ideas also are mindful breathing, sensory input, staying grounded. Allow yourself to feel what you feel when you feel it. Taking care of your health, getting enough sleep, avoiding alcohol and drugs, eating a well-balanced diet, and reducing stress. Now, if you're wanting to learn more about these things, you can see them in the write-up that is listed below. And then finally, how to know when to seek professional help. This is an important one. A lot of you folks can do a lot of this work on your own, and you can start feeling better right away. But if you don't feel like you're quite there, don't fret, there is help. And so here are some things to look for to know when you need some professional help. So know that everybody heals on their own at their own pace, and to be very patient with yourself. Having trouble functioning at work or home, if you're suffering from severe fear, anxiety, or depression, if you're unable to form and or maintain close, satisfying relationships, if you're experiencing terrifying memories, nightmares, or flashbacks, if you're avoiding more and more anything that reminds you of the trauma, if you're emotionally numb and disconnected from others, or if you're using alcohol or drugs to feel better. So those are some of the things to be looking for. And even if those things don't fall into the category of the avoidant attachment style, those are still some good things to talk to a professional about to be able to work through, regardless of where they're coming from. So keep that in mind too. That will do it. That is an overview of the avoidant attachment style, the characteristics of parents, as well as what it looks like in childhood, adulthood, as well as some tactical tools to start practicing now to help you get to a more secure attachment style. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave me some comments in the comments section. Give the video a thumbs up. And as always, please subscribe to our channel to let us know which types of videos you enjoy. Take care.